Hello everyone, welcome to the episode number 36 of QnA series with Suresh GP. Today we are going to talk about another important topic in DevSecOps, which is essentially the core principle of how security is built. You would have heard the term called CIA Triad. Now, what is this CIA Triad? CIA stands for confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Now, what do you mean by confidentiality? Your data is kept private, secret, and secure only to be accessed by specific parties. Integrity, the data and the security around it is consistent, accurate, and reliable. Availability, systems and applications remain available unless compromised in an attack. Now, if you look at this as a triangle of confidentiality, integrity, and availability, the confidentiality is basically ensuring that information is kept private and secure. Integrity is the data is not modified, deleted, or added, which is basically like tampering. And availability is systems are available when it is needed to the right persons. Now, this is also further divided into authenticity, accountability, and non-repudiation. Authenticity means providing verification on the identities based on the access that you get. The second aspect is accountability, where assurance are provided by recording the identities and activities in a system. The third aspect is non-repudiation, assuring that the identities of the parties in a transaction is maintained. Now let's talk about what are the different types of attacks that are applicable for confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Number one, if you look at confidentiality, the first attack is man in the middle. So between a source and a destination, if you have someone in between who is stealing that information or hacking the data before it reaches the actual destination, that is what we call it as man in the middle. The second one is port network scanning, where we actually look at different port scanning, network scanning to find out if there is something which is bound to have attack. The third one is eavesdropping. I go to a lot of places in the airport where we see people talking loudly about something very confidential, some level of password or details. So people hear the information and can use that information against them. So that is what we call as eavesdropping. Now let's talk about some of these possible attacks as far as integrity is concerned. Number one, data injection or modification. So as you know, one of the top 10 vulnerabilities is SQL injection. So can we look at modifying the data for the system which will interfere with the integrity of the information that you have? The second one is phishing attacks. Phishing attacks means that you send out an email that seems to be a very legitimate one, that people get misled because they accidentally click on the link or provide some information that would compromise the whole systems. Number three, data deletion. Accidentally you purge data or delete data. That could mean that your actual authenticity of that data is no longer intact and it gets tampered. The third section of attacks that are possible is called availability. You would have heard the concept of DDoS attack, which is typically a denial of service, that people don't get access to a particular system or an application or a website. So people are not able to catch hold of the resources. The second part is ransomware. The purpose of ransomware is to provide an opportunity for the attacker to hold the resource, and they charge a hefty lump sum amount in order to release that particular environment. So you become a trap because they hold the entire services that we cannot get it until you pay the amount. The third one is blackout. So People and attackers and hackers are increasingly getting much more sophisticated that they can entirely black out the entire system. So you might not have access to environment that we are possible to approach. So I hope you have now a firm understanding about the CIA Triad: confidentiality, integrity, availability. What are their respective definitions? Why that triangle is so more important when you talk about security. And we have also discussed about some of the possible attacks that could happen under all these sections. So be aware of it, secure your systems, secure your environments, and secure your data, because all that is important is to ensure safety and security of your customers, of the data, and within your organization. You play a pivotal role to ensure security is not compromised. I hope that this episode of Q&A series was useful to understand the CIA Triad, the possible attacks, and why they become very important to take into consideration for any amount of securities development, implementation, and monitoring. Thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in our next episode of Q&A series. Until then, stay safe and keep watching. Thank you very much.